Hello and welcome to the No Cricket Podcast. I'm Anurag.
And this is Saurabh.
We're commentators at CricBuzz.
So we watch a lot of cricket.
And that means when everyone's asleep at 3 a.m.,
We're watching cricket.
when it's a Friday evening and you're at the bar,
We're watching cricket.
and when you're stuck in rush hour traffic on Monday morning.
We're watching cricket again.
So naturally, we have a lot of interesting conversations about cricket.
So we thought, why not record them in front of a camera and put them into the wide vast ocean that is the internet.
And that's exactly what we've done.
This is the No Cricket Podcast, where we share our 2 cents about the game that we love so much.
Hello and welcome to another very special episode of the No Cricket Podcast. We've got another guest on the show, and with us today is Ramki MS, who's the head of the commentary team at CricBuzz. That also makes him our boss. Ramki, thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Pleasure to join you, boys.
Awesome. So I know we're a little bit late to this, but let's talk about the very exciting, very thrilling India-England series that just concluded. 2-2 scoreline. A lot of times at the end of the series, you hear people saying, the scoreline wasn't quite fair, wasn't really a fair reflection of how the teams played. But at the end of this series, I think most pundits and most experts seem to agree that 2-2 is a really good and really fair scoreline for this series. What do you guys make of it?
Yeah, Anurag, I totally agree that 2-2 is fair. After the way the cricket has been played throughout this English summer, no team deserved to lose. England came strong. England won a lot of decisive moments, and that's what gave them the edge probably. And India, in like a transition phase with a new captain, a lot of new players overall, they've really come up well in this series. And I would say 2-2 fair reflection, and kudos to both teams because we've had some grueling cricket, some very hard-nosed cricket overall, and I would like to say that it's fair that we ended 2-1.
And you, Ramki?
From an emotional perspective, just understanding the way how this series went, yes, 2-2 seems fair, but you would always, if you dig deep, you would really see that India missed a great chance of being at least 3-1 or even going better. But this is not to take away anything from the way England played, just that focusing on maybe the drop catches or some of the key moments that they missed. From that angle, it could have been 3-1 at least.
What do you reckon, Anurag?
Yeah, I think 2-2 is a pretty fair reflection of things. I predicted 3-2 in favor of England before everything started. You spoke about key moments. That's been a crucial factor throughout the series, hasn't it? Because if you look at that last game, I think that was a great example of India winning a key moment, whereas they hadn't quite done so in the earlier games. Heading into the 5th day, a very thrilling finish. Did you guys expect India to win?
I had my doubts on it, to be honest, because of just the way it transpired. And it also shows how cricket is a game of momentum. When Harry Brook and Joe Root were bashing it all around, it looked like England might just chase it on a canter. And then the moment a wicket falls, it's just the team morale is lifted, everybody is chirping, and suddenly it feels like every ball could be action. Every ball can produce a wicket. When we had to go off due to bad light, I felt that India probably had some bad luck go their way because England would come out to fairly fresh skies and a heavy roller used pitch. And I expected because they had 2 quality players in Jamie Smith and Jamie Overton playing in the middle. So I expected them to knock off the runs too quickly, especially when the first 2 balls went for 2 boundaries. But you can take nothing away from the way Siraj, Prasidh, and even Akashdeep have bowled throughout that 5th test and just wrestling the momentum back. It just is testament to how good this Indian team is and the way these boys fight back. Just very heartening to see.
What about you?
Yes, to be honest, I don't think we expected India, or at least I expected India to win with the way Brook and Root were batting. But when they went off a bad light and there was an image of Jacob Bethel sitting and thinking about his dismissal, and Stokes was at his back and trying to calm him down or kind of comfort him. So there, you kind of felt that probably, you never know, it could go back to that Jacob Bethel dismissal, the way he got out. And as Saurabh said, and the heavy roller was a big topic throughout that discussion, the entire test match, and what it does and how it flattens out. Uh, it was advantage England for sure, and especially after those two boundaries, we all thought like, what, maybe 5 overs, 6 overs, it's going to England are going to get there. But then England Duke's ball, you're never sure. You never can relax, as a batter, and that old ball of 70 plus overs was hooping around like anything. So in England, that's what makes Test cricket interesting, and the Duke's ball, I think specifically has a role, and we'll talk about the Duke's ball later itself, because there was a lot of talk of, or there was a lot of complaints about how the ball behaved in the first three tests, whereas in the last two tests it was completely different, and you hardly saw the players going up to the umpires and complaining about the ball. So I'm really interested to know, what the review is from Duke's side after the entire Test series.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a very thrilling an hour or so of cricket. I think that was all we got. But what do you think the pivotal moment of that day was? Do you think it was the Jamie Overton LBW, very marginal call, just about clipping leg stump? A lot of people seem to think he got very unlucky. But what do you think? Fair play?
Fair play, and I think it was about time that India get a bit of the rub of the green. And you can argue that being forced to walk off when the rain had stopped and we actually had about 45 minutes worth of play left was just India being hard done by the rules and hard done by the umpires. So it's just how Test cricket is. That's the nature of the beast. You get a few marginal calls your way, and at the end of the day, it was 35 runs. It was England out there to get it. You can't be cribbing about an LBW call marginally going in the opposition's favor. You had your opportunities, you had your chances to score the runs. For me, I think the Jamie Smith wicket. And what was important was Jamie Smith is a guy who's made his name as a fearless batter. He comes out and he plays his strokes, he's positive, and throughout this second innings, he was very tentative. The nerves had got to him. I don't know how much of it was because of the occasion and the way Jacob Bethel got out before him, but Jamie Smith just looked a shadow of what he usually is. He was tentative throughout, and he chased at a really wide one. He himself would be very disappointed with the way he got out, and I think that kind of just tilted the favor in India. And obviously, also when a wicket like that falls early in the morning, just think of the morale that it boosts of Siraj and Prasidh Krishna. It just really lifts them up 10 feet. And that's what we saw. Like a tired Siraj who's bowled 1,000 plus overs just had the energy of a young child when he came out to bowl, and he delivered what we all saw.
Yeah, I mean, these, the umpire decisions or the DRS rubber the green and all, it's obviously not in anyone's control. Some go your way, some don't go. Siraj didn't have a review when you wanted to review. And you can go on. So, and it was interestingly, Ehsan Raza almost stole the show after that LBW of Jamie Overton. And thankfully, DRS was in favor of England to, kind of avoid any kind of controversy there.
What do you
Yeah.
think, Anurag?
Yeah, I think you're right. I think the Jamie Smith wicket was definitely a moment that England will look back on. And you're right in saying I think he played a little too timid. I, I, I mean, like you said, he's a fearless batter who has a lot of confidence in the shots that he plays, and you just didn't see that version of him that morning. And the way he got out as well, just chasing a wide one. So I think he was running down the pitch to it as well. Wasn't really committed to the shot. So he was probably caught in two minds, and got in between that, got in the conundrum of sort of being fearless but also being cautious at the same time, knowing the situation. Yeah, I agree with you. I think the Jamie Smith wicket was definitely the pivotal moment. Let's move on.
Just to
Yeah, sorry. Go on.
Yeah, just to come back to that point, it felt like England were all about this ultra aggressive avatar of of the pass ball and the way they play, but it felt like they weren't really, as you said, committed to that style of play. They doubted their own approach, and it definitely felt like that. After a point, maybe after the sixth or seventh wicket for sure. And obviously, with the injury to Woakes, maybe that also played a role in their minds. And it's funny how you have played a certain brand of cricket and it's got you success, and you are in a situation to repeat that, but somehow things happen that you can't control what you wanted to do, and eventually things go out of your hand.
Yeah. We'll definitely come back to Chris Woakes. We'll also come back to Mohammed Siraj, who was the star of the day and star of the Test match, really. Let's do a fun little exercise here. Let's look back through the series from the lens of players. Let's go through a list of players that I've got here, and we'll rate them out of 10 and see how they did throughout the series. Let's start with India's Yashasvi Jaiswal. How did you think he fared?
Yashasvi Jaiswal, first turn to England, he's done fairly well. I also feel that sometimes he's a bit too flashy and he tends to play his strokes too early on. That's something he will learn in his career, that in England you need to settle in for a bit and then you can play your strokes. So it was like boom or bust for Yashasvi Jaiswal. So he either goes on to score big or he gets out in single figures. And that is something I'm sure the young kid would want to correct for himself. As a first turn to England, I think it's a solid 8 on 10 kind of performance for me.
I mean, if you had a look at how the build up towards this series, in the New Zealand series in India, he had not so great numbers, and he started pretty well in Australia in the first half, but then couldn't go on to make any telling contributions towards the end of that series. But he loves England, man. Out of his 6 Test 100s, 4 have come against England. And as Saurabh said, going there and on the first tour in England to do pretty well, and I think I would also give somewhere close to 7.5 or 8 for sure, because his play was also being kind of under the radar. Okay, if he had failed this series, what would have happened? Maybe they could have backed him in India for sure, but given the kind of lack of form or lack of runs from his bat in this format, things could have gone slightly differently. But as I said, he loves playing in England, and Sangakkara was there, and I'm sure you would have heard it as well. Like Sanga and Ashwin, tell about his work ethics, and how hard he tries to improve himself, and he's a keen learner of the game. So on that front, for him to get 400 plus runs, I was really happy for him.
Yeah, I beg to differ a bit here, simply because of the lofty standards that Jaiswal has set for himself, right? Like Saurabh mentioned, it was a little bit of a boom or bust kind of series for him. Got 100 in the first game, made a big statement, and it was lean returns after that up until that last game where he also got 100. But that 100 wasn't really chanceless. I think he was dropped 3 or 4 times, and I think he could have easily. I think he was dropped on 0, right? So he could have easily been out for another low score, and it would have his numbers would have looked a lot different. And when he looked back, the series, he wouldn't look back very fondly on it. If I quickly read out his numbers, 411 runs at an average of 41, I'd go 6.5, simply because of the standards he set for himself. I expected him to have, well, it's unfair to compare him to Shubman Gill simply because of the amount of runs that Gill ended up getting, but I expected Jaiswal to have that 500, 600 run kind of series. So I'm going to go 6.5. A little harsh, but 6.5. Awesome. Let's move on to his partner then. KL Rahul, the real bedrock of India's batting in this series, blunting the new ball, gritting it out, hanging in there. Played so many crucial knocks throughout that series. What do you guys think about KL Rahul?
100%. And I think the way this team has now been structured, KL Rahul is one of the most senior men in this team. So the weight of expectations was really on him. And opening in England is generally a difficult task. And given how India's opening conundrums have been in the recent past, we were really looking for some stability and a guy who can like just stay the long haul, even if it's not contributing with those daddy hundreds. It's about, like I said, blunting the new ball. And I think KL Rahul did that to perfection. He had a very solid technique. The games that he got out to some really good deliveries. He got out just that little lapse of concentration here and there, but technique wise solid. He always looked positive. He looked like he was out there to score runs, and I think he's done a stellar job for the team, given all the talk around the series.
And what's your rating?
Yeah.
KL Rahul's rating for me is a solid 7 on 10.
Yeah, again, casting your mind back to the New Zealand series, KL was dropped after the first test for Shubman Gill. Once Gill came back, he took his spot, so he didn't find a place in the last two tests. And even in Australia, by his standards, he didn't have a great tour there. And without Virat Kohli, without Rohit Sharma, and without Ashwin, and as KL admitted himself, it felt a bit weird for him to see that dressing room without them, and that must have put kind of a little bit of extra pressure on him, because he is the senior man here, and people were going up to him and asking for experience in England, trying to pick his brains, and from there, what I felt was the line for me was KL is there at the crease. So that was the sense of calm that you always felt that most times he had to get himself out, or he could do nothing about a ball. Probably you'll talk about maybe the Georgetown ball that got him at Birmingham, or the Stokes dismissal in the second innings at Manchester. So those kind of balls, you can't do anything. But for me, KL as a senior player and as an opener was rock solid. And for me, it's definitely 8.5 out of 10.
Nice. I think I sort of agree with Ramki there. Go for a higher rating. Simply, like you mentioned, simply because of the weight of expectations that were on him, senior player now, all of a sudden with Virat Kohli and Rohit Sharma retiring, and like you said, he didn't have a stable place in that lineup. He was again suddenly pushed up to open, looked upon to get runs, looked upon to be that senior batter in the side, and I think he delivered. With KL Rahul, you always think, you look at his stats and you sort of think, hey, his numbers don't really do justice to the way he plays. But this series, third highest run scorer, 532 runs at an average of 50 plus. The numbers, I think, definitely did justice to how well he played. And I'm going to go with a 9 out of 10 for him. Right. Quickly moving on. Let's move on to England's openers now. We'll talk about them together simply because they work so well, and I think one of them wouldn't exist without the other. So let's talk about Zak Crawley and Ben Duckett. Saurabh, your thoughts first.
Well, the first thoughts that come when you think of Zak Crawley and Ben Duckett is all the chatter they made outside their cricket, which is just like annoying the opposition, just a little bit of banter, poking around, and trying to delay Bumrah's over on the second test or third test, I believe.
Lots.
And yeah, so I think they do a role for England, but just by their standards and what is expected out of them, they both kind of underperformed to an extent. Zak Crawley, especially. I think Zak Crawley has a massive problem to the nip packer. He gets out way too often. I remember in New Zealand, he got out 6 times to Matt Henry, and it was always the nip backer that got Zak Crawley. So I think technically there are a few chinks in his armor that do get exploited, and also the numbers. I think he averages mid-30s for the amount of games he's gotten for England. That's a poor return. It's just England like the mentality and the kind of charisma Zak Crawley possesses. So that's why he has such a long rope in this team. Ben Duckett as well, I feel he's a bit of a hit and miss kind of player. He he over relies on attacking, he over relies on his cut shot, and if his cut shot isn't working as well, then I think technically he can be found out fairly well. He also struggles to the away swingers from round the wicket. So Akash Deep, for example, got Ben Duckett out plenty of times. So like there are a few technical drawbacks to this opening pair. I think collectively I would give them a 6 and 10. They left a lot to be desired overall.
With me, Zak Crawley, to be honest, I wasn't, really expecting anything significant because, again, as Saurabh mentioned, there are certain technical flaws. But I mean, you're talking about returns, but we'll also have to be, we'll also have to understand what England want. Like, they looking at a solid opening partnership that gives them 100 plus on average, or is it just the impact that they're looking for, even if it is a 20 or 30? So that question will always be there. And with regards to Crawley, scoring big runs, obviously the technical flaws are there. So I wasn't really expecting a great series for him. And coming to Duckett, Akashdeep, the games that Akashdeep played before the injury had a big telling impact on the way Duckett performed, because Akashdeep is gold to left arm batters from round the wicket, man. He makes it very difficult, and Duckett got out to him, I think, in both the innings. To him at Birmingham or Lords, I'm not exactly sure. Yeah, I think it was Birmingham. Yeah. So, and though, Duckett started really well at Leeds with that 100, but, it's kind of, again, the games that Akashdeep played were the next two games and he didn't score. Akashdeep missed the fourth game. He had a pretty good contribution. And the fifth game, Akashdeep returned, but, he was coming from a groin injury. So I'm not too sure, how fully he was there as a bowler, and that kind of was evident with the way he operated as well. He was kind of underperforming by his own standards. So I would say Duckett maybe 6.5 and Crawley 5.
Right. Like you said, they performed like you'd expect them to, didn't they? Duckett easily outperforming his partner. I think he got 400 plus runs at an average of 50 plus, got a couple of hundreds. And Zak Crawley, again, middling returns, average 32, having scored 290 runs. The reason England persist with them is, I think, because they work so well together. One tall right-hander scores heavily down the ground through the covers, and another short left-hander who likes to square the wicket on both sides. And it's because they work so well together that England keep persisting with them. I think if they weren't a pair, I think they wouldn't exist in isolation in that England side. And for that reason, I'd say Ben Duckett 7, Zak Crawley 4. Yeah, I keep wondering how much longer they keep persisting with Zak Crawley, but it looks like they have those two share a really good rapport, and England just don't want to break them up. So for the foreseeable future, it looks like they're going to have Zak Crawley opening the batting.
So just to add to the Duckett bit, as an Indian fan, I am quite happy with the way he performed in terms of, let's say, not his usual standards, but Duckett, man, is one of the best. Running across in all formats. And as an Indian fan, as I said, I was okay with him not doing well in this series, but I rate him pretty highly.
Right, let's move on. You spoke about England having an opening pair and their intentions behind having an opening pair like Duckett and Crawley, and you spoke about the impact that they create rather than the runs that they score. If your openers are not really getting you the 100 or 80 to 100 run partnerships, and more often than not you have a number 3 walking in with the side 20 for 1 or 30 for 1, you need a solid number 3, which I don't think Ollie Pope is. What are your thoughts on Ollie Pope? Again, not that good of a series, was it?
Yeah, I think Ollie Pope's just been a very funny character. He always starts a series really well, and the moment his place in the side is questioned, he comes out and delivers a really good innings. He was under fire, and then he came out and scored a big. He got a big score against Zimbabwe. That's how he probably retained his place. And then he got a big 100 again in the first test. And since then, it's been middling returns. So I think Ollie Pope, it's just there's a lot of promise. There's because he feels technically pretty solid, but again, it's just that doesn't get translated on paper. So at the end of the day, you look at Ollie Pope and you just feel, man, I wish this guy was my 600 run scorer in every series. He just doesn't do that for some reason. I think Ollie Pope for me is another 6 and 10.
I'll slightly differ from Saurabh in this regard because there is a technical flaw with Pope with the way head falls over to the offside or he's susceptible to the ball coming in, and yeah, so that kind of gives the bowlers a great chance to get him out, and he also tries to play the cover drive quite often. And he can you can easily try and not easily there is a big chance of him nicking off to the cord and etc. So maybe I don't know, like after the series will England go for Bethel at number 3 or in a different position at least, but I personally feel Bethel needs to be in the level. He's such a quality player, and I'm sure with time he'll be one of the better batters for England. So on for Pope, I'm going maybe 3.5 or 4.
It's a funny thing, isn't it? Both Zak Crawley and Ollie Pope, they're in very similar places. They maybe also share similar vulnerabilities against that incoming delivery, and they're really hanging on by a thread in that English side. But what's also funny is that Ollie Pope's the vice captain of the side. He captained the side in the last game in Ben Stokes' absence. So are they willing to drop their vice captain? We're not so sure yet. Maybe they would have if he hadn't got that big 100 against Zimbabwe. You never know. But yeah, not a great series for Ollie Pope. I'm going to go 4 out of 10. Okay, let's move on to the two men that manned India's number 3 throughout the series, Sai Sudarshan and Karun Nair. Not great series, not a great series for either. Where do you think they stand at the moment?
Yeah, so Sai Sudarshan first. I think when I watched him play in the IPL, the first thought that I got was, man, this guy has such a solid technique. He looks so beautiful when he scores runs. Like the bat comes perfectly, the drive aligns perfectly, and I had a much higher ceiling for him in this England series. I expected him to be like a big run getter. He's coming off a lot of confidence after winning the orange cap in the IPL, but it did not quite translate. I also felt that England recognized a problem of Sai Sudarshan getting caught down the leg side, and they exploited that really well through the series. That's something the young lad has to work on. It's probably new for him also. He didn't expect this first series to be so hostile. It's new conditions. But still, overall, a lot to be desired. Sai Sudarshan, once again, has the technique to have a much better impact. So for me, currently, this is a 4.5 out of 10. Karun Nair, again, he just scored a bucket load of runs in domestic cricket. He's had his time playing with the counties setup. So India had much higher hopes when they picked Karun Nair for this series. He was supposed to be that, like just the passage when two senior pros have retired to have that little experienced guy in the setup. And Karun Nair himself would have had higher expectations. Gautam Gambhir and the Indian team would have had higher expectations. The problem with Karun Nair is he tends to be a little too slow, perhaps, which is he takes a lot of balls to settle in and he blunts the ball, he gets his eye in, and then he gets like a very good delivery. Or he gets one delivery where he pokes outside off and gets out. So ultimately, it's just Karun Nair's stayed at the crease for 2 hours, but all he's got is like 15 runs to show for it. So overall, a disappointing, and I really don't know where his career goes from here because he was already on thin ice, making a comeback after so many years, and you expect a comeback man to like be amongst the top run scorers, and that's not quite happened. So Karun Nair for me is a 4 on 10 again.
With Sai Sudarshan, if I'm honest, I wasn't having high expectations. I am a huge fan of him. Okay, but white ball cricket and red ball cricket, we'll still have to differentiate it slightly differently. And as Saurabh mentioned, the habit of getting caught down the leg side, I would love to hear this from a expert's opinion. I wonder if it's because have you seen him tap the bat when he gets ready for the ball? He only uses his wrists like this, only this moment. He hardly uses the elbow, which most of the batters, when they tap, the elbow, the arm swings as well. So what he's so the problem when he's trying to glance or flick on the leg side is, I wonder if the lack of movement of the forearm or the elbow is kind of putting him in a vulnerable position to play that shot. But have we seen that enough in white ball cricket? I don't think so. He's not. I mean, at least we didn't spot that problem. When he was playing the IPL. So yeah, I mean, I think in with time to come, a great player of Spain. I am expecting. I'm all excited for him to watch him play in India, and the way he handles spin, having grown up at Chapak on those wickets, and when let's say a tough opposition like New Zealand, the way they came out and bowled spin. And I would love to see Sai, be in that situation. And I think, he will do well because, he has the technique. He plays late. He uses the depth of the crease. Technically, very good. Apart from that, leg side thing, I wonder why that is though. So hopefully, if he can correct that, I'm sure, his career is going to be great. So I would, the rating is just, I just a number. I would give him 4. And Karun, the way he came back to competitive, high class cricket. So that is the IPL, and the way he smashed Bumrah in the IPL in that game. Okay, and from there, he had tweeted out that cricket, please give me another opportunity. So we all felt that this is the Karun Nair now 2.0. But unfortunately, he had lower returns even after that game in the same tournament, the IPL. And here, yes, he, I would say, if not for that 50 in the final test, he would have been really disappointed with himself. Because, he made that, very, very crucial, important contribution in that first innings at the Oval. I think he'll left England shows a little bit more satisfied. So I think again another 4 out of 10.
Yeah, it was a tough gig for both of them, wasn't it? One on debut, another on comeback. Obviously, lots of external pressure that comes with either being on debut or on comeback. And number 3 is not an easy position to bat in, especially in England. So, yeah, India, India sort of threw both of them at the deep end, and well, they didn't really swim that well, but I think they made it ashore in the end. Sai Sudarshan averaged 23, Karun at 25. Again, very, very mediocre, if not poor numbers. Uh, but I hope there's more to both of their stories. I'm sure there will be for Sai Sudarshan. He's a young man, up and coming. I'm sure he'll be in India's plans. But I hope Karun Nair's story isn't over as well. And I'm going to give a collective 5 to the both of them. Looking ahead, who do you think? Quick thoughts. Who do you think India are going to go with for the next series at number 3? Will it be Sai Sudarshan, or do you see them sticking with the experience of Karun Nair?
I would like to see Sai Sudarshan being given a bigger rope. You always plan for the future, don't you? That was the whole logic behind getting Kohli and Rohit Sharma and Ashwin out of the system. So it doesn't really bode well if you're getting another 34-year-old to replace them. So give a youngster a go. I would love to see Abhimanyu Ishwaran in the mix as well. And for now, and I'm a big fan of continuity. So Just give a young lad that you trust who's got runs in the domestic circuit, give him a big rope and just see if he comes good. If not, that's when you experiment. So the next 8, 10 tests, I would like to see Sai Sudarshan be given a chance.
Yeah, I agree. And plus a left-hander. So you have Jaiswal, KL, and then you have another left-hander at three, and then Gill, the right-hander, and then five is probably, you can shuffle around maybe Punt or, whoever, Shreyas and then you have Jadeja. So yeah, I think I would want to see. As I said, I'm just keen to watch him play in India.
That's a good segue to move on to Shubman Gill. What can we even say about him? 754 runs, four centuries, a big double hundred, and 160 in that second test at Edgbaston. On captaincy debut, and he had an absolutely dream series. I'll be very honest, I did not expect that. What about you guys?
Well, he's nicknamed as the Prince in Indian cricket, and I think this series was just a highlight of the Prince slowly becoming the king. I know those are big words to say, but Shubman Gill really like stepped up to a different level. I think these kind of pitches where the deck is slightly flat, it favors him. He was able to play his strokes, and I think Shubman Gill just set the marker out really early. I remember the first test at Headingley, and he got a glorious cover drive and a straight drive very early on in the innings, and that just kind of set the tone. And it really massively helps a batter when they're feeling in good rhythm very early on in a big crucial tour. And the other thing I thought about was captaincy is a very difficult art, and some of the best in Indian cricket. Sachin Tendulkar was never a good captain. Rahul Dravid might not have been a very good captain, but Shubman Gill's really taken like a duck to water to captaincy, and he's taken the fight to England. That was very, very welcoming, very soothing to see as an Indian fan, especially an Indian fan who's grown up watching a lot of Virat Kohli. So good signs. It's very promising for the future. I think Shubman Gill, the captain, took the fight on, and I'm sure he'll learn a lot. And his batting genuinely takes to another level with this added responsibility. So Shubman
And
Gill
your
for me
rating?
is at least a 9 on 10 for the way he's come out in this series.
Um, Given his history of having a problem to the nip backer, and given there is Cars, there is Woakes, forget Stokes, we'll get there later, and given the Duke's ball, if I'm being honest, not many probably would have expected the kind of series he had, but he made minor technical adjustments to counter that, and yeah, of course, he had his chances, but I think he had a very good series, and it was very important that I'd rate that Manchester innings, very highly because Stokes was unplayable there, and the way he handled him was absolutely rock solid alongside KL Rahul. Again gave that sense of assurity at the crease. So that is what you want from a captain, right? Like it's not just the runs, the way you are, going about your business. Captaincy wise, yes, I'd still, love to, give him a little bit more time. Of course, if not for 2-2, people could have, scrutinized him more. But thankfully he deserves that space as of now, and to be 2-2 in England away from home, being the first series of as a captain, I think it's a great result for him, and again I'll go with 9.
Awesome. I'm gonna go for a 10 out of 10 here. Very hard to fault anything that Shubman Gill did in that series, be it captaincy, be it batting. I think he was flawless, and he certainly exceeded my expectations, if not for a lot of people's as well. Right, let's swiftly move on to another man who also scored a lot of runs and who's tailing Sachin Tendulkar. Let's talk about Joe Root. Another pretty good series. Scored 500. Let me see if I can get his numbers. something over 500 runs. He missed out in the first two games, but came back strong, hundreds in all three of the remaining tests. What are your thoughts on Joe Root?
Well, Joe Root did what Joe Root does, which is, especially since McCullum and Stokes have come into the fold, it's really like broken the shackles of Joe Root, the batter. He had the burden of captaincy before that, and now he's just a free flowing batter. And it shows he's enjoying his cricket a lot more. He feels a lot more confident, and I think now he just loves playing in those English conditions. And yeah, like you said, tailing on Sachin Tendulkar, and the way he's performing and just given the amount of cricket he might have left in him and the pitches in England, I wouldn't be surprised if Joe Root really seizes that record. Once again, just very pleasing to the eye. On his day, he just makes like even the most talented bowlers look like school children. So the when Joe Root and Harry Brook was just scoring freely, it looked like England will chase down like a record 380, 75 with like so many overs to spare. So that just is a mark of how good Joe Root is as a batter. And for me, Joe Root again is a 9 out of 10.
I mean, Joe Root, you obviously, you can't expect anything different from him. He's a class player. And, he had a great series, no doubt, in that regard. But, I expected him to do a lot more. And, probably, outscore Shubman Gill in terms of the numbers. But, again, Bumrah factor and probably, a few other bowlers as well. He has that knack of, seeing through people's lenses, and he can, figure out what is fake anger. He can handle the sledging moments, also with the likes of Prasidh Krishna. So yeah, I mean, I expected him to do a little bit more, but it is the guarantee that he gives that this is a minimum of 500 runs per series. So yeah, I think again 8.5 out of 10 for me.
Right. I'm going to agree with Ramki there. Again, by his own lofty standards, I think Joe Root would have wanted a little bit more out of himself in that series. Maybe and especially in that last game, he would have wanted to see his side home. It was his wicket that really triggered that collapse, wasn't it? You could argue it was Harry Brook's wicket, but as long as Joe Root was out there, England were breathing easy. So by his own lofty standards, yeah, I mean, saying 500 runs isn't enough is very harsh. It makes me look really silly, but I'm going to go for an 8 out of 10 for Joe Root. He got a lot of runs, but I expected a few more impact runs. And yeah, I mean, Joe Root did Joe Root things. Let's move on to his young Yorkshire partner, Harry Brook. Worthy of the Player of the Series award, do you think? Nearly 500 runs at an average of 53, couple of 50s, couple of hundreds. I'm not so sure I agreed with that Player of the Series award. What about you guys?
Well, the Player of the Series award is chosen by the opposition coach. And we all know how Gautam Gambhir makes certain decisions. So it was a fascinating one, but it cannot be understated the performance of Harry Brook in the series, because I think he has a very set role in this England side. He comes in at number 5. He comes in either when you need to pile on the runs and get the rate up again, or he comes in to just counter attack, and he plays that role to perfection. There are days when it doesn't come off and he gets out early, or in the days that he really sets it. 1 hour of Harry Brook batting and the game can look completely different. That's what the Oval Test was all about. So I think that's the biggest quality, and that could be like the biggest drawback about Harry Brook as well, which is he's fearless. He takes the bowler on no matter what. You will see him charging down the wicket. You'll see him just dancing around, trying to hit bowlers over their head, even when it's swinging like a yo-yo. So it comes off more often than not. I think it's just the way he plays. It's also a little bit of just the exuberance of youth that Harry Brook wants to play that way. He's not too afraid of losing his wicket. He's not too afraid of looking silly, and he has the dressing rooms backing to be that way. I think if he corrects these minor things in his life, the ceiling for Harry Brook could be really, really high. And for this series, I think a solid 8.5 out of 10.
I mean, he's a dashing batter, and he gives you that impact that not many can give you. He's a bit like Punt, with the way he could really annoy you with the way he gets out. But when he gets going, he's going to single-handedly smash you the game. So yeah, I mean this series, of course, maybe a couple of chances went his way, and that had a big telling effect of the amount of runs that he got. But I mean, again, I'm not too sure if I can ask for this. Like, if he can be a little bit more consistent, being with the kind of approach that he has already, he can, as you said, he can go to greater heights, and he already has a number of hundreds, and he has zero fear. Just that I'd like to improve him, or improve the spin play a little bit more, and become a bit more rounded. And let's see where the records head. So for me, not exactly satisfied. So maybe I'd go 6.5 out of 100. And definitely
Yeah.
not the player of the series. It had to be Ben Stokes.
Yeah. Well, I like to call Harry Brook the tip of baseball spear. I think he personifies what baseball is all about. If you think of baseball, and if you have to think of one player, then it's Harry Brook for me. So again, like you said, 1 hour of Harry Brook and the game can completely turn on its head. That's what happened at the Oval, and he'll be gutted that he couldn't see his team through. Having said all of that, again, just shy of 400, just shy of 500 runs. Uh, I'd have expected him to get a few more again. Home conditions, familiar conditions on flat pitches. So I'm going to go 7 out of 10. Okay, let's quickly move on to Ben Stokes, the real player of the series. Again, another phenomenal series. It started off with him. Everyone looking at Ben Stokes is his big comeback after an injury layoff, after a surgery as well, I think. And everybody was looking at Ben Stokes and seeing, could he be this all-rounder that they were promised? Could he be a frontline seamer, and could he also be this top six batter? And he delivered, and how it was absolutely phenomenal, wasn't it, from Ben Stokes? Especially Ben Stokes, the bowler, I think really stood out and made a big difference in those first four tests.
Man, I don't know where he generates all this energy from. Like, he must just have bags and bags of reserves, because Ben Stokes, we all know what his body has gone through in the last 4 years or so. So often he gets like, he's injured, he stays out. And then to see him bowl 10 over, 12 over spells. And I think the Lord's Test match was just testament to how good Ben Stokes, the bowler, is. Because that was a target that India would have chased on 9 out of 10 occasions, and it was just Ben Stokes and Jofra Archer. And most of the credit, it's also great captaincy to persist with your two frontline bowlers, just with a hunch that something could happen out here. And he just turned that game on its head. And also, I think he was under a lot of pressure, because his batting returns weren't great. There was always going to be question marks about how fit Ben Stokes will be coming into the series, but like, to just silence your critics this way and just lead from the front. I think in Ben Stokes, more than like it's the runs and the wickets, it's just the presence and the aura that he demands on the field. That's what like makes England such a confident and fearful side in today's generation. Ben Stokes, for me, again, real man of the series, gets a 9 out of 10 for me.
Yeah, easily 9 out of 10 for me, mainly because of Ben Stokes, the bowler. I mean, coming into the series, the talk was India's batting lineup is quite young versus, the inexperienced bowling lineup of England. And man, he just stood up for his team. And at Manchester, he was holding his shoulder every ball. Then he had a cramp before that as well in the legs. and still bowled that long spell and literally threatened to rip the game apart open and take it from India. But yeah, I mean, Ben Stokes, the batter, is a bit of a disappointment as a fan. Like I'm a huge, he, let's say pre-COVID, like pre-COVID or pre-pandemic, Ben Stokes, the batter, you had a lot more stability and confidence looking at him bat. But since maybe the last few years, he's not had that stability at the crease, and I know he had that 100 in the series. But if Ben Stokes, the batter, arrives, he is going to be unstoppable. And yeah, but the way he bowled, the way he set up players with the angle, the wide angle, and the swing that he got and the seam positions were just outstanding.
And your rating?
9 out of 10.
Awesome. Yeah, I think I'm going to have to agree with that as well. That 100 at Manchester K was a very timely one, wasn't it? He was under a bit of pressure with the bat in hand. Hadn't got 100 in a year or so, I think. So it came at a very timely moment for him. Absolutely nothing to fault with the ball other than maybe just overbowled himself a little bit and ran his body into the ground and couldn't make that fifth test. I think if Ben Stokes played that fifth game, we would have been looking at a different scoreline. I think that's safe to say. He makes a big difference to this side, doesn't he? Not just as a leader, but as a player as well. With Ben Stokes in it, England looked like twice the side. So I'm going to agree with that and go for a 9 out of 10 as well. Let's move on to India's gun all-rounder now. Ravindra Jadeja had an incredible series with the bat, his best series with the bat, easily, by far his best returns with the bat. 500 plus runs at an average of 86, which is quite incredible, batting at number 6, and that gritty performance at Lords. Unfortunately, the result didn't go India's way, but then he was there at Manchester to fight it out and ensure that it well, it didn't go India's way, but he also ensured that it didn't go England's way. So another extraordinary performance with the bat, but at the same time, not quite the series he would have wanted to have with the ball in hand. Just 7 wickets at an average of 72. And it's not like he didn't bowl a lot of overs. He bowled 142 overs. That's second only to Mohammed Siraj for India. So not quite the series he would have wanted to have with the ball, but an outstanding series with the bat. What did you make of Ravindra Jadeja?
Well, I think since 2022 or so, Ravindra Jadeja, the batter, has really scaled new heights. And I think it was all about getting that first Test 100. It came fairly late for him in his career. And since then, he's not really looked back. Once again, it comes off the back of a very solid defense. He can play for long hours. He's the guy who's got 2 triple hundreds in domestic cricket. So he can play the long game, and that's exactly what he showed in England. He has the patience to really wait it out and then score when it gets a little easier. So Ravindra Jadeja, the batter, massively impressed with the way he's performed. As a bowler, yeah, he was mediocre, but I also think that that's what you can expect from a spinner in England. You aren't going to get the easiest of pitches, and his job was mainly of a hold-up bowler. All he had to do was contain a net, and I think his economy would be 3 or like 3.5 for this series, which means he's done a good hold-up job. And also, bowling the most overs is because he's the only bowler probably who played all 5 tests along with Siraj. So overall, a good performance by Jadeja. Also important to remember that this was a series for him to step up as the senior pro. When he feels like there is no Kohli, there is no Rohit, there's no Ashwin to share the load for him. So the way Ravindra Jadeja has stepped up as a three-dimensional player is really heartening to watch. And I hope he can give a lot more years to Indian cricket, because Indian cricket is just enriched when Ravindra Jadeja is playing. For me, Jadeja again is an 8.5 out of 10. I'm cutting the marks because of his bowling.
I would go 9.5 for Ravindra Jadeja, the batter, because the situations that he was in, the pressure that he was in as a batter, especially in Manchester, 0 for 2 for nothing. Like, we all thought like, oh, is this going to end today on day 4? But to come out and play like that, he had a sound technique, as plays with soft hands, and once the ball gets softer, I don't know if it's a feature of him enjoying that Duke's ball in England, but he finds a way to score in England. And playing late, he has a pretty good defense, as Saurabh said. And there was a ball that Archer got him with, but this only little bit that he could have done. So you can't really fault his shots as such. But amazing series with the bat. And I was again, as another player that if he was there, you knew that this guy you can bank on. In terms of bowling, maybe Manchester is the only place where you can probably, kind of, if you want to be critical, ask him, say him that, okay, maybe with the rough outside the left hand is off stump, he could have done a little bit more. But as Saurabh said, I think, the pitches weren't really, conducive enough for him to really come into the game. And I am not considering his bowling part at all in the rating for the series. So, but it's a 9.5.
Awesome. I'm gonna go with an 8.5 as well. Again, absolutely incredible series with the bat. Maybe I mean, people looked at his innings at Lords and said, could he have played a few more shots, knowing that he was batting with 9 and 10? But to take it that close, I think he trusted his partner, and he was playing. He was playing the long game. He didn't want to take risks, right? So yeah, I'm gonna go for an 8.5. If he had won that game, maybe it would have been a 10. But yeah, 8.5 for Ravindra Jadeja. That's where we're at. Okay, let's quickly move on to Chris Woakes. A pretty mediocre series by Chris Woakes' standards, especially bowling at home. He was the experienced man in that otherwise inexperienced lineup, and I think he didn't quite deliver, did he? He had 11 wickets at an average of 52.8, played all 5 games, mind you. Not that great of a series for Chris Woakes, but I think this series and Chris Woakes will long be remembered for that image at the Oval of him walking out with his arm in a sling under that sweater, ready to bat left-handed and one-handed. Was quite incredible. But if you take that away and look at the series from an objective perspective, Chris Woakes not that good, was he?
Nah, not really. And like you said, I think it's just the grit that he showed to walk out at Oval. That's what probably redeems the series for Chris Woakes, because that's gonna be the only lasting memory. It's not gonna be of some beautiful outswingers or some great nip backers from Chris Woakes through the series. I think he was a steady Eddie for England, but he was not like all that threatening ever. Like in all the five tests, I don't remember like a spell of Chris Woakes which made me feel like, man, he's unplayable. He's gonna get a fifer and open up this Indian team today. So by that standards, I feel Chris Woakes was a bit of a letdown. I also feel his pace dropped every test that he played. So by the time the fifth test came about, he was just like gentle 120s, rarely reaching the 130s kind of. So maybe something to look at in terms of fitness and like playing a long series as the lead bowler. Maybe a lot more was expected out of him. Chris Woakes for me is a 5 out of 10.
For me, I expected quite a lot from Chris Woakes, to shoulder a lot more responsibility given the inexperience in the England bowling lineup. And with the way, he has the tendency to wobble the ball both ways and, even get some swing as well. But he could have easily. I mean, I expected him to trouble batters with his nip backers, the right-handers. But it was surprising to see him not have a good series with the ball. And even more surprising was Woakes the batter. He is a very, very good batter. But for some reason, he could, just not, get the runs. And with the ball, the second innings at Manchester, when he got Jaiswal and the Sai, I was like, man, is he going to return to form now? Is Woakes also going to come to the party? Then, but thankfully, KL and Gill played superbly to, have that partnership there. But yeah, Woakes is a big disappointment, but hats off to him for what he did at Lords, for coming out and for, trying to save, or I mean, be there for England for uh, Atkinson to try and win it. So yeah, I mean, rating wise, I'd go only 4 for Woakes.
Yeah. I think for me, Chris Woakes gets a point just for being brave enough to walk out there, being ready to bat one-handed and facing up the wrong way as well. I'd go again. I think I'd agree with Ramki. Go 4 out of 10, but gets that extra point that makes it a 5 out of 10 for Chris Woakes. Okay, so only a couple more players to go through, and let's start there with Jasprit Bumrah. He committed to 3 tests before the start of the series, played only 3 tests, and it didn't win any of them. So not quite the impact he would have been hoping to have, but he picked up 14 wickets at an average of 26. Pretty respectable, but by Bumrah's lofty standards, probably not quite up there. What do you make of it?
It's such a funny thing, right? That the games that Jasprit Bumrah played, India ended up losing or drawing them. So I think it's just that's the Jasprit Bumrah effect. That when he comes in, he is the frontline bowler, and then maybe it just relaxes the other bowlers slightly, and like that's what makes run scoring a little easier on the other end. Throughout the series, Bumrah had been good. There is not a lot that we can fault with in terms of his bowling. Maybe the Manchester Test, in which Joe Root and Ben Stokes really took off, and then Bumrah had not like India could do nothing really in response. That's the only like blemish. In terms of his bowling, he got a couple of fifers, and also he performed very well with the bat at Lords. Got that test really much closer than it should have. It's just funny because he's not had the results to show for the series, but as an individual performer, Jasprit Bumrah is a solid 7.58 out of 10, isn't he?
I mean, with Jasprit Bumrah, it's funny how, if you go to social media, people, try and troll him for, being fit for IPL and not for Test cricket. Man, he is Jasprit Bumrah. Do you even understand what he brings to a team? The impact that he has even before he picks up the ball on the batter's mind. They're trying to study him like, okay, how am I going to handle his angles? How is the ball going to move away? Because, he releases it quite late and he gets that extra zip. Like if you see, the extension is quite forward from the crease, so the batter has a little less time to react compared to the other bowlers. So he is, I'm not going to rate him. Like, you can't rate him, he's beyond that scale. Okay, he might not have taken wickets or had let's say return numbers wise, he might not have had a great series, but given the what he's gone through with his body, and given that he played 3 tests, and unfortunately India didn't win any of those games, but that doesn't have to do anything with it. So yeah, just with Bumrah, you have to be really different to talk it of it.
Okay, let's go with that. I'm gonna say again, like Saurabh, I'm gonna say 7.5 out of 10, simply based on his performances in this series. He bowled well, not taking nothing away from him, but I think if you ask Jasprit Bumrah, he'll concede that he wasn't quite as potent or quite as incisive as he would have wanted to be. Like you said, at Manchester when the game was going away from India, these are the moments you look up to players like Jasprit Bumrah to get you the breakthrough, right? And unfortunately, that didn't happen. But again, that doesn't take away anything from the kind of player Jasprit Bumrah is. Okay, now for our final player, we've saved the best for last. It's Mohammed Siraj. I mean, what can we say about Mohammed Siraj? All heart, no tilt. It was an absolutely incredible series, wasn't it? Not just the bowling, but also the emotion, also the moments that he found himself in. First at Lords, that heartbreaking moment when the ball dribbled back onto his stumps. And then at the Oval as well, when he put that catch down of Harry Brook, he could have easily been remembered for that for in that Test match. But he turned up the next day. He said that he believed, and that he had a wallpaper that on his phone that said "believe," and believe he did. And what an absolutely incredible finish that was, and what a fitting finish that was for Jasprit Bumrah. I mean, for Mohammed Siraj to take that final wicket and uproot Gus Atkinson's off stump. Again, another famous image that'll live on for a long time. What have you got to say about Mohammed Siraj?
The poetry of cricket can be so beautiful sometimes, isn't it? That Siraj, it's just cricket has a very funny way of rewarding the hard workers, and it's rewarding the people who play with intent, who play with the right spirit. And Mohammad Siraj 100% falls in that category. It would have been heartbreaking if all we remembered of Siraj was the way he defended a delivery back onto his stumps or that catch being tiptoed over the fence. But instead, he is like the talk of the town. And for all this talk of workload management, I think just that schoolboy like exuberance that Siraj brings in, where he just runs in with all the energy. I don't know from where he channels it. It's just so fascinating and so lovely to see because in an age where cricket is so scientific and there's so much of like analysis and workload management, to get a player who's just all heart and he's like, I have made it through the tough grind in Hyderabad and I made it through nothing. And now to come here and perform with the best of shoes and the best of clothes, I'll do anything for my country. And that's what Siraj probably like just highlights what India is in a country, which is the hard workers get rewarded, they do get recognized, and all's well that ends well. Mohammad Siraj for me is like this fascinating story of this series. He's surely a 9.5 out of 10 for me.
I can only go 10 out of 10 for Siraj because I can't give anything higher. The leg stump betrayed him at lots, but the off stump was so flattened by the energy, the effort that he had put in. And, he was really unbelievable this series. To expect that, Siraj will steal the show from both sides. If you agree, like both players, both sides will say that, he was the best player of the series to have that energy. And he's a, as people said, he's a physio's dream. How does he, generate that much amount of pace? And imagine he bowled 143 kph after bowling 1,000 balls in that series. And there was the fifth fastest ball that he bowled. That's a great, stat. And to do it at that point, proper country first man doesn't think of anything else, doesn't think of his body, doesn't think of doesn't doubt himself. That is a great feature of Siraj, and you can't fault his commitment, just like his mentor who is not in the team right now. And we saw that at Lords 2021 when India gave England 60 overs of hell. The impact that Siraj could create, and at the Oval, the other side of the river, he won India the game again. So I think it's a 10 out of 10 for Siraj.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, you said we can't go higher than 10. Why not? This is our show. We make up the rules. So I'm going to go 11 out of 10. Because why not? Why not? Siraj, again, he was a man of the series, not from the awards perspective, but he was a man of the moment. He was at the center of all of the action, the center of all of the drama, and to stand there still smiling, still going after everything. 1,113 deliveries he bowled in that series, and he didn't look any lighter for it, did he? I think he still had a lot more gas left in that tank, and if you asked him to go on, he would have gone ahead and maybe bowled another 1,000 deliveries. Who knows? 23 wickets. at an average of 32, the leading wicket taker of the series across both teams. So 11 on 10, we make up the rules. Awesome. I think that's where we leave it. Any closing remarks that you guys want to share?
Well, yeah, just a thank you to India and England because this was a test series for the ages. And in an era where test cricket is just often declared dead, declared as having no takers, to have 5 tests go down to the fifth day and have so much of excitement packed into a series. This was Ashes 2005 probably all over again. And it's just so heartening for the sport that we're still having these real theaters of cricket going around, and I generally feel that this is gonna lift up test cricket 10 notches. So I hope for more series like this, but at the end of the day, it's just a thank you to India and England for the way they performed.
Yeah, I mean, completely agree with Saurabh there. You can probably rate this as high as, the Ashes 2005. And if you just look at when you roll back to the start of the series and you look at both squads, and if you're going to say that, this is going to be a 2-2 with all 5 tests going to fifth day, then you should be rated pretty highly in terms of your predictions. But what a series we've had, what entertainment. Just that, I'd like to see England there close up on the WTC points table and, probably getting there with the final. But unfortunately, they've not had the results against the big teams at home. And winning at home is a big thing to get there. So, yeah, I hope that, England will address that as well while they try to do something towards, bringing crowds to the stadiums.
Yeah, awesome. I mean, that we're even talking about this series in the same breath as the '05 Ashes speaks volumes, right? Test cricket is alive and kicking, and I think that's a great place to leave this conversation. Thank you very much for joining us, Ramki. We hope to see you again in the future on our show. Awesome. That's all we've got for you today, and we'll see you again soon.
Thank you, guys. See you.